For this fishing lure, I'm going to wipe it down with isopropyl alcohol. It'll leave it nice and clean and it'll be ready for the next step, and we'll dry that with a hairdryer. You may need to use an adhesion promoter depending on the lures you have, or even sanding. For this lure, we're going to put down as our undercoat Autoborn Sealer Red. It's been reduced by about 20% with high performance reducer. We'll put down about 2 coats and we'll dry it in between coats. Now for our hardware, we're using the Iwata Neo. It's a TRN2, which is a trigger handled airbrush, and that's a 0.5mm, and that's matched to these paints. So being a trigger handle, when you release the trigger, the material and the air stops. Still using our TRN2, we've now got it loaded with Wicked Colours Fluoro Red, reduced by about 10% with high performance reducer. We're going to now coat the entire top length of this with the Fluoro Red, and then we're going to flip the lure over and we're going to do the very bottom, the full length from front to back. I'm going to give it a couple of fairly heavy coats, both of them. I've switched to AutoAir Colours Flare Silver Spectrum. This colour, as I said before, this colour is nuts. It's like holographic, so it glows all over the place no matter what angle you're at. And what we're going to do is both the middles of the side of the flanks, where the lateral line would be on this lure, we're going to coat both sides fairly heavily. There's times in paint jobs when you've got to go backwards and forwards with some colours. That's called the push and pull method. Now the Silver Spectrum, I've got overspray all over the top and the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my TRM1 loaded with Wicked Colours Fluoro Red, and I'm going to readdress the top and the bottom. Now this is where you can be really inventive. If you don't pound it too hard, you can get some of that Silver Spectrum still glowing through the fluoro, and that's a really cool effect. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the Silver Spectrum from AutoAir Colours, and we're just going to do the middle of the flanks again, just to make sure they're nice and bright. The next step is I want to give this some gill rakes. So we're going to use the Snacks Fishing Lure stencils from AutoAir Colours, and we've picked out the one that's got the gill rakes that are similar to the size of this particular lure, and we've masked around the gill rakes so we're not going to get overspray on the rest of the lure. And we're just going to use Wicked Colours, and we're going to use the gold metallic here, and we're just going to pound in the particular gill rakes, put it at one coat, and then we'll dry it with the airbrush, the compressed air, and then we'll put another coat down. Before you go doing the other side, guys, this is a helpful tip for you. Because the paint on the stencil itself is going to be slightly tacky, if you go stick that on the other side of the lure, because you've got to reverse the stencil, it's going to stick to the lure. So if you go to the spray accessories section on the website at airbrushmegastore.com, grab yourself some big wipes, pick out one of those, put a little bit of high performance reducer on it and wipe down your stencil. The paint will come off within 5 to 10 seconds. Dry it off. You can now see exactly through your stencil again, perfect for relocating the other side, and no paint transfer. We can use the gold for another step here. So while we've got the metallic gold in the airbrush, we're going to grab another stencil from the Snacks Fishing Lure stencil set, and that's just the scales, and we're going to lie that down the side of this particular lure, and we're just going to spray in just the very top part of this fishing lure. We don't want this all over it. I want to still have the Silver Spectrum come through, so we can just even do a line if you want straight down the middle, and you'll get a glow top and bottom. You get a little bit of gold in there. Switching back to the TRN2, and I've got my AutoAir Colours Flare Silver Spectrum in that. And what I'm doing is I'm tinting from the scales, so I'm making sure the scales blend into the top. And I'm only going to tint over the top. I don't want this to be a standalone colour. I want the Fluoro Red to be predominant, and that'll come through, but there'll still be the sparkle of the Silver Spectrum glowing from the top as well. We're at the business end now. We're nearly done. I have one more step I want to complete, and I'm going to go back to my TRM1 because I want to really be careful with this now. And I've got that loaded with Wicked Colours Fluoro Red, and just the bottom of the lure. I want the lure to be really glowing, so I'm just going to re-address all the bottom of the lure, and I'll slightly bring it up into the bottom of the scales, but I'm only going to tint that because I want the Fluoro Red not to be predominant into the scales. Okay, so what will happen is the sparkle will still glow through that as long as you only put a little bit on. This will look pretty neat. It's time to bring these colours to life with clear coat. So the products you've been using, they're all water-based base coats, but they are all automotive grade pigments, which means you can use acrylic lacquer clear, you can use 2-pack clear, you can dip them, you can have a look at YouTube. You will find there's many different ways to clear coat your fishing lures. But for this job, I'm going to use the acrylic lacquer clear that I found at Super Cheap Autos. It's Duplicolour, and it works very well with these paints, and it doesn't go yellow. A little bit about acrylic lacquer clear. If you've got warm to hot conditions, you can follow the manufacturer's specifications and you'll get a good result. But if you've got cold conditions like we've got now, we've got 2 degrees here right now, which means the substrate temperature of the fishing lure is going to be lower than that. If I try to clear it, what's going to happen is the clear is going to either react and crocodile or it's going to crack. It's not the paint we've put on, it's going to be the clear coat reacting to the cold weather. So what we're going to do is we're going to warm the fishing lure up by putting a fan heater in the area. And then we're going to put on a couple of coats, drying them with a hairdryer in between coats, and that's only going to take 10 to 15 seconds. Then we're going to build up our coats until we get it nice and glossy. Now, if you go for a really saturated coat, it is possible you can get bloom, being the fact that it's so cold, and that is going to be a white tinge. So I suggest you build up your coats medium to wet, and then when you've got it to a stage that you're happy with, call it done. These are the products we use to create our fishing lures, and they're all found at airbrushmegastore.com, except for the acrylic lacquer clear. If you need something you can't find it, send me an email, info@airbrushmegastore.com. I'm there to answer your questions. But for this kit, we use the Iwata Power Jet Pro. It's strong enough to run all day long. It comes with 2 different air lines on the unit, which means you can run a different air pressure to either side. That is suitable because we wanted to use the Iwata trigger airbrushes. They're both Neos. Why do we use these? Well, being a trigger, when you release the trigger, the airflow and the material stops. So if you're a beginner airbrush artist, you can get great results immediately. If you try to go straight to a trigger airbrush on top of the airbrush, you're going to find that it's going to be harder to use. It's going to take a lot longer to get the knack of it. Don't let that put you off. If that's what you want to do, go for it. But the trigger on the front of the airbrush allows you to get results very quickly. Now, as far as the needle sizes, we used a 0.5mm and a 0.35mm. So the 0.5mm you'd use for your undercoats and your flakes, and the 0.35mm you would use that for doing your more detailed work. So after this, we used the Autoborn sealers as our undercoat. We used Autowear Colors, Wicked Colors and Illustration Colors as our paint job colors. We used V-tape to tape up our designs, and we also used the Autowear Snacks Fishing Lure Stencil Set. Everyone needs to have these. It comes with a multitude of stencils in that set, different sizes. You can create your scales, your gill rakes, multiple designs. I can't see you doing fishing lures without them. And then we used a variety of Artul stencils, which gave us a great deal of different designs. So if you want to get the results that you've seen in this video, grab this gear and you'll get professional results too.